He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is the Alex Marlow Show.
All right, fun one. I'm suspending Hawaiian Shirt Friday this week. It's Christmas week, and I didn't bother putting on a Hawaiian shirt. I'm sorry. I apologize for those of you. You can just imagine a Hawaiian shirt. This is Mike Slater now. He is the Breitbart News Daily host. He's the guy who I passed the baton of my beloved show to about a year and a half ago. He does a terrific job. And there's a nice arc to this interview. We start with California, where he lived for many years and where I grew up and moved back. The good, the bad, and then we shift to the historic opportunity we have in this next Trump administration to bring people back to the concept of universal truths and how we achieve that. And we achieve that through our faith. And I think that's a really important thing. And it's sort of the underlying narrative of his broadcasts are the importance faith plays in politics and in just having a enriching life. We get into art, we get into music, all sorts of great stuff in this one. I really think you'll enjoy it, particularly as a weekend deep dive conversation. And I promise you'll like it. I really do. So, plus, oh my gosh, I forgot. We get an update on Snowflake, the black elf on a shelf, who has gone back into hibernation for the rest of the year. But Snowflake, it gets a long shout out in this episode. It's fun. We always have fun with Mike, a fun guy. Give it a listen. Here we go. All right, my guest today has a special place in my life. The person I handed the reins of Breitbart News Daily, my beloved morning show to, Mike Slater, is with me, who's very prolific. He's an author. He's on air somewhere at any given time. He's always a microphone. And Mike, do you have to, when you go out to barbecue with your family, do you have to bring a microphone with you? Because
it's constantly on.
It's
always
constantly
on, bro.
So 3 hours on Sirius XM, which is that's a full meal, but you're podcasting, you're on the First TV, you do a local show in San Diego. I'd say, is there anyone, have you figured out, are you the most prolific broadcaster? Alex Jones does these 7-hour live streams, so he might have you, but I mean.
Yeah, Buck Sexton for a while did a 3-hour national show and then another 3-hour show. So he was doing at least 6 hours. And then I think he did a TV show. He did 7 hours at one point, but he didn't do that anymore.
That's gnarly. Yeah, I saw Larry O'Connor was up to 5 at one point, and it's just a lot. I mean, I feel like I could talk all day, but I max out at like 6 or 8 hours. Just I can't really go more than that.
6 or 8. Yeah, we push that every day. But, I think quality, you got to keep the quality high. I'm a more quantity over quality guy.
Yeah.
I'm more like a machine gun. That's kind of my humor too. Some people are snipers. I'm a machine gunner.
Yeah. So we have a saying at Breitbart that quantity has a quality all its own.
And there you go.
Wow, if that doesn't make perfect grammatical sense, it's from Bannon. So you got to take it for the spirit in which it's intended.
Yes,
but it's Christmas week here, Mike, and we're recording this a bit before Christmas. I'll disclose that to the audience. But it is you've got a bunch of children around similar ages to my children. What's the Christmas vibe like? You're in Nashville now.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So we were in San Diego for a while, and not much of a Christmas vibe in San Diego. It's kind of neat. Like we were near the beach, and someone every year puts up a Christmas tree in the sand. Like, that's kind of cool. But I grew up in Syracuse, New York, where you get 180 inches of snow a year, and that's a Christmas vibe. It's hard to beat that. So now we're in Nashville, where it's colder, so you get that going. So it's a little more festive. And we had the tree lighting, and you do all kind of the more Christmassy stuff. I actually So there's this thing that I've noticed that people do. If you say that you just watched a movie for the first time and it's a classic, everyone says the same thing. They all go, "What? You have never seen?
What is that about?" Yeah, exactly.
So my wife and I just yesterday, for the very first time, and I'll give everyone a moment to do the routine, we watched It's a Wonderful Life.
No way! Are you kidding me? That's crazy. I let you take over Breitbart News Daily and you never seen So
Never came up in the interview. Never came up in the interview.
Misty, hold on. Can we stop this? Do we have anyone? Can we get Charlie Hurt in the blower here? Can we get someone else to fill this? This slot. Is
but
Jerome
I'm
around?
now.
Let's get Jerome in here. Jerome Hudson.
So we watched it, and it was lovely. It's a lovely movie. People should watch it. People should know about it. I feel like more people should know It's a Wonderful Life is a movie that is good all the way back from 1947. But I bring it up because I grew up in a sort of Bedford Falls-like town.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the movie's really, I mean, there's a lot of stuff about the movie, but it's a movie, it's a love letter to the town, to the small town. And I miss that. So we moved to Franklin, Tennessee, which kind of has that vibe, but it's still crazy packed and busy and all that.
So how long were you in California? Because I was just talking to someone who was rattling off a list of prominent conservatives to me, and your name came up in that list who are California based. And I was thinking about it in that I didn't know if I thought of you as a California guy. So maybe I'm wrong, but maybe I'm right and that person was wrong.
No, it's interesting. 12 years. Just moved last year. And I was in San Diego. I've been the longest continuous running talk radio show in San Diego for maybe 30 years. That's
a big achievement. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. So most people, they're kind of in and out. It's like a 4 or 5 year gig in San Diego. Right. We've been there for a long time. So I don't know, not there anymore. So there's that.
What is the character of San Diego? Because I live in LA, and San Diego I think of as a place that is very much longer of a drive than it should be because traffic's always horrible. It doesn't matter when. Always bad traffic to get down there. Really close to Tijuana. And the weather's perfect, and there are great craft breweries. At a different era of my metabolism, that was very appealing to me about San Diego. Now I've passed the being able to metabolize lots of craft beer part of my life, so not as important these days. But what's the identity of San Diego in your opinion?
Yeah. I think it used to be, and we could talk about politically in a minute too, because that's very fascinating. But I think it used to be like the quintessential like Beach Boys California vibe, and I think that's gone. I don't think it's around anymore, and that's a shame because I don't know anywhere that still has that beach vibe,
right?
Which is a bummer because California used to have a very distinct culture, and now it doesn't. So that's a bummer.
No, we do. We have pot and homelessness. I mean, what's interesting about I live in LA area, as the audience well knows, or knows well. And the beach communities are not great. Even though the beaches are fantastic, the beach I spend the most time at is probably Santa Barbara, which is about an hour and a half from me, because I'll go there for work, do stuff for Young America's Foundation, stuff like that. They've got some of that nice culture to it, but I'll tell you, Malibu's too expensive. Santa Monica is too many crazy people there. Venice Beach is it's all pot and crime.
Yeah, no, you can't deal with that. There's nothing.
Yeah, you can't even walk your family. You're a bad parent if you walk your family down there. So it's where is it? Where is that great California vibe, and why doesn't anyone talk about it?
No, I mean, we lived in Mission Beach for a while in San Diego, and that's cool, but it's so wacky. Everything's wacky. Just a funny San Diego beach story. This just happened recently. This just speaks to how insane California's become too. With all the problems you just mentioned, with all the beaches, crime, drugs, whatever. There was a guy, he's a homeless-ish guy, who has this van, and he's like called the Bubble Man or something. And he'll make these big, huge, giant bubbles with like ropes and stuff like that, big, huge bubbles. And the city fined him for polluting the grass with all of his bubbles that are being pumped. He's like one moment of like joy and fun that could be brought to like the beach area, and the city's like, no, you got to go. And meanwhile, it's just lawless everywhere. And the idea that he's polluting the grass. One of my San Diego claim to fame is we have this area called the Cove, and it's right next to what used to be called the children's swimming pool. And it's a natural cove in La Jolla, and the seals took it over. Like actual seals, not like the Navy SEALs, like real seals took it over.
Right.
And they now you can't swim there anymore. But because the seals are there, there's also like a ton of birds that are there, and they poop on the rocks, and it stinks. So there's like these beautiful condos and restaurants, and you cannot go to them because it stinks so bad. And it was against the law. It was against EPA regulations for the city to clean the rocks because the bird poop concentrate was so poisonous that if you put it into the water, it would like make the water so polluted, it would violate all these regulations. So they could not clean the rocks. So one rainy day, I went down with a push broom.
Well, what is this neighborhood called?
La Jolla, the Cove.
Okay.
The La Jolla Cove. So one rainy day, I went down there with a push broom and cleaned off the rocks by myself. And the restaurant right across the street, named a sandwich after me.
Is that true?
100% true.
I always want a sandwich named after me. I tried to convince Jimmy John. I had him on the show, the founder Jimmy John, to create something called the Marlow, the Vito on which with the Kickin' Ranch and Jimmy Peppers. Like, that's why I wanted that to be the Marlow. And he told me we're good to go, but I tried to order it and no one knew what I was talking about.
The memo didn't make it through the staff
to corporate. Yeah.
So that was one of my life goals too. So I finally got it, and all it took was cleaning off the bird poop. But I can speak politically to San Diego. So the culture is like still not, it's still kind of vibey, because when I got down there 12 years ago, I did the morning show. So I got off work at like 9 a.m. and I went to the beach, and the beach was packed on like a Tuesday. I was like, what the heck is going on here? Yeah. And I talked to a guy, and the guy's like, oh, it's windy. So they're all like the windsurfers were all that stuff. And I was like, it's Tuesday. Like, what are you talking about? Like, so there's still like a no one really works kind of vibe there, which is cool. So you get a little bit of laid backness, but politically, when I first moved there 12 years ago, the city council was 5-4 with a Republican mayor. And we were the biggest city with a Republican city council and a Republican mayor. And the county was 5-0, all Republicans. And San Diego County is 3.3 million people. It's bigger than like 25 states. We'd be one of the biggest states if we were our own state. So 5 people controlling the whole county is very powerful. And as of a couple of years ago, the city council is 9-0 Democrat. The wackiest mayor you can imagine, just like all of them, Democrat mayor. And the county is 3-2 Democrat, soon to be 4-1 Democrat, and just voted the other day to name themselves a super sanctuary.
That's right.
County.
That's true.
So that's where that all comes from. And that's happened in just a few years.
Very disappointing, because a lot of cool stuff down there. And you're right about some of I was down there. I've been going down quite a bit because we have some cousins down there that we like. And we're in that age. They got kids of a certain age. And so it's fun. And
you could have just said we have cousins down there.
No, we have cousins we don't like, though. So that's I want to make sure if they listen to the show that we know that we're on to them. And they shouldn't try to put one over on us.
If we don't visit
and we come off nice in person, but then we trash talk on podcasts. So just know that that's how we roll. No, but I think is Mission Bay an area that there was some place where it was kind of cute, but like you couldn't actually go in the water. And it's just, isn't that a national disgrace that we have some of the most beautiful climate in the world, and then you can't go in the water? Like,
Mission Bay is so Mission Bay is where SeaWorld is, if anyone knows the area.
Yeah.
Mission Bay is great because when they built it in the 40s, 50s, they built it. It was not a natural thing. So it's a man-made thing. And no way would that be allowed to be built today. You cannot do anything in California. There's a lot of beach communities and things. There's a lot of fun things in San Diego that would not be allowed. Like, there's a roller coaster on Mission Beach.
A whole theme park to torture animals. Like, there's no way it'd be allowed.
I mean, more the land, the manipulating of the land. In fact, and then we're getting too San Diego focus. We can broad out.
No, hold on here. We're going to get these huge saltwater tanks here. We're going to have to get this just massive structures, stadium. We're going to put it right. It's basically going to be protruding into the water. And then when we set it all up, we're going to torture all the animals that are here.
Are you a Blackfish guy?
I never saw it. You know why? Because I feel like I couldn't trust it.
What?
Yeah, thank you. I feel like I couldn't trust it, so I don't have that much time for.
No, you definitely can't trust it. So I happen to know the head trainer at SeaWorld, and he just rattled off how ridiculous the whole thing.
Sure.
Like one of them is like,
and I'm sure he's featured prominently in the documentary. Yeah, right. Just to make it fair.
No,
have to balance.
One thing is the sad fin. They'll be like, oh, look, this fin curls. It's so sad. Oh, sad fin. He's like, no, that's just some of them curl, some don't. Like, whatever. But we like anthropomorphize the animal so much that it's like, this is a happy whale and this is a sad whale.
Yeah, maybe sad. We don't know. Maybe the sad is happy. I mean, maybe the curl means they're really happy.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So that's my debunking of Blackfish. This podcast is so timely and relevant. Yeah, I'm debunking 15-year-old.
It is relevant.
Documentaries.
But it's all about the fake news. So, but hold on. You moved to Franklin, which is one of the hottest neighborhoods in the country in Tennessee. Everyone wants to move to Franklin. You actually did it. So compare and contrast.
Oh yeah. Great question. Wonderful people. It has a town. It has a downtown, which is nice. It has a place that people can go and be doing the same thing, like a tree lighting, something like that. San Diego's, it's big. It's got all this other stuff going on. It's southern, so there's a lot of churches. It's a Christian vibe. It's just people who share your values and that you feel it. It's interesting. It's interesting. You don't have to be afraid to say things. I know you're not, no matter where you are anyway, and that's good. But for a lot of people, it's just a big sigh of relief knowing that you can presume things to be true.
No, but it's different when you're out with family because you have to decide whether or not it doesn't happen all the time, but there's a 1 in 20 shot. If I get into what I do for work with someone, then it may be 1 in 10 shot that it's going to be the next 45 minutes are going to be verbal fisticuffs. Like it's nice when you feel like, at least where I'm at now, I feel like when I say what I do for work, I feel like it's a better than half shot that people are going to be positive on it, which is new. I mean, I've never lived like that before.
In California.
Yeah. But in my area where I'm in a sane part.
You found your own little Bedford Falls.
Yeah. LA. a little bit, just a slice of it. Okay. So I ask about the Christmas season for you because you've got kids of a certain age. So are you guys doing the Elf on the Shelf?
I have pretty strong feelings about Elf on the Shelf.
Well, what is it?
Yeah, no, listen, I pick my battles here, Alex Marlow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A couple years ago, I did a whole thing about Santa. I got railed and I knew it was a hot take or whatever. I knew it wasn't a friendly take. And
what was the take?
I got that Santa should be, to your kids, Santa should be like Batman and Superman. That's it. We don't have to make a big deal about it either way. You don't have to say he's not real. And you don't have to say he's so real. Just be like, he's a fun story that we tell and it's fun. That's it. Doesn't, but like, no one's like, no kid is distraught when you have to tell them the truth that Batman's not real. You know what I mean? So like, be normal. Everyone's to be normal. But anyway, like I have a whole Christian take on that.
You're saying Batman's not real?
That's what I'm
saying.
Crazy. Why do we have to do this? Oh, my kids are listening. My kids don't tell them about Batman.
I like Batman because he's real. Superman is not real. I mean, flying and
that's ridiculous.
The airplane, like that's not real, but Batman, that's real. He's just a rich guy with a heart of gold.
I've learned not to bother with the Santa take anymore. So I have never even really verbalized the Elf on the Shelf take.
That's a good call.
But I don't like the idea of because isn't part of the Elf on the Shelf like he's watching you too?
Yeah, she in my house, Snowflake is her name.
Okay. Yeah. And here's another thing. If you badmouth Elf on the Shelf and your boss does Elf on the Shelf, now we got
but that's okay.
We got other problems.
But we're professional disagreeers. So
okay.
But I gotta say, so Snowflake, our Elf on the Shelf, who is black or not African American because she's from the North Pole. So how would you say African North Pole Ian?
What is her skin tone?
Black.
How did you?
My kids picked it. They cured racism. Master Marlow Jr. single-handedly cured racism in this country by selecting the black female Elf on the Shelf. Like that's it. Sexism's over, racism's over.
If I ever get a phone call from a hater, calling out Breitbart for any racism or anything like that, I have my number one data point now.
They're the two whitest kids in America, and they picked the black Elf on the Shelf without any coaching. We're done. We solved it. It's over. We won. Someone call Ta-Nehisi Coates and someone call up Ibram Kendi, and like we did it, guys. Like we did it, fam.
So what does Snowflake do? We're not to.
You know what Snowflake's doing this morning? Snowflake got a water pistol and was pointing it at the base of the stairs so that when the kids came down in the morning, Snowflake had just a gun pointed right at him. And she's got a great sense of humor. That's all I got to say. So no, but we have fun with it, but it's mostly a vehicle for jokes.
That's fair. I have no problem with that. And mischievousness is fine. But I thought there was an element of he's watching you and making sure you're good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that I don't like adding that element into a kid's life because that's what Santa does too.
Okay, well, so Santa was at brunch on a couple days ago with us. So we were family brunch. Santa was there. And I found myself dapping up Santa, NFL player style, and slipping him $20. And I was thinking that I've never given Santa $20 before. Yeah. And what does that say about me? That I'm now at the phase of life that I'm giving Santa $20. And
what were you looking for out of this $20? What were you greasing the wheels for?
A bunch of candy canes. Like he would just be nice to my kids. So I thought he was $20. I don't know. I don't know. Is that the etiquette? And you're not the guy to ask. I know that, Mike, but I wanted to bring that up. It's the before.
No, I don't want to be like Christian Fuddy Duddy. One of my characters on the show is Lamo Super Prude. So I hate to be lame-o super prude to everyone, but I don't like to introduce the idea that things are watching you. Children. It's like, God is watching. That's it. You should be scared of him because you may go to hell, Alex Marlow, if you don't honor your mother.
What if you had an elf on a shelf, but the elf was an agent of God?
There you go. Maybe
not an
get,
agent
like
of Santa.
Clarence. How many references can we make to It's a Wonderful Life? Maybe Clarence is elf on the shelf.
Yeah. Okay. So what is so we're heading into the beginning of a really historic year, and I'm just abruptly switching gears, serious stuff. We've got a huge opportunity in the culture. We've got a huge opportunity in the government. What is your initial first 100-day plan for Trump, for the cabinet? What are the things that you're keeping your eye on that you think are going to be a good sign we're heading in the right direction versus signs that maybe we're going to go soft again?
Yeah. The thing that will be the litmus test for me is Holman and the border. The thing I'm most excited about. So I decided about a month ago, November 6th, to be excited about the next 2 months. I could have been a negative Nancy about this lame duck 2 months. Could have been a negative Nancy. It's never going to work. This won't have I was like, you know what? That's lame. I'm just going to be happy. I'm going to be excited and be energized and ready to roll. So we've done that, and that's good. But now it's time. Now it's like go time. So we'll see how it actually rolls out. The thing I've decided to be most excited about is how fast we are promised things will happen. That this is day one type stuff, not day 100 type stuff. And Holman is at the top of the list. Will we have the cojones? Will everyone involved, will the American people have the cojones to really deport mi abuela? So we'll deport the Guatemalan who lit the woman on fire. Maybe like honestly, like in the past, we wouldn't even have had the cojones to do that.
No. In the past, they would be on protected status. Like those would be the first ones to get to stay.
Maybe we've like had enough of a revolution where like that guy we can maybe send back to Guatemala. But like, is it enough to have mi abuela? And when Holman did an interview and he said, when they asked him about family separation, he's like, we're not going to separate anyone. And they're like, well, what about the people who are American citizens? And you deport abuela, but you keep everyone else. And he's like, well, they can go with her. He said that. So he's like, we're not separating them. They can go if they want to. And then Trump said that like a week or so ago. And I was like, oh, okay. We'll see. Like they're both on board with that everyone is going. There's no holds barred. No one's off the list, no matter what and no matter how long you've been here. So if we start seeing some real movement on that, and then Holman's like, we're going into Chicago first, that type of stuff. And here's what I love about Holman, because Holman comes across, everyone makes the comedies like central casting, villain, depending on how you look at it, right? He's central casting border czar guy. And he comes across perhaps as like cold and hard and cruel, heartless. I've seen him cry twice in the last 2 weeks.
Wow.
He's not heartless. He has properly ordered affection. And where we've been trained, last thought, I'll let you go. When we've been trained to have only a misaligned sentimentality towards the illegal immigrant, Holman has a properly aligned sentimentality. Sentimentalities, I always use that in a derogatory sense. A properly aligned love and concern for Americans and also for the victims of illegal immigration who are Americans, but also like the kids raped at the border. And that brings him to tears. And I think he'll act on that righteousness. And that's what I'm excited for.
Folks, pay attention because this is as serious as it gets. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are racing to lock in radical policies before Trump takes office in January. They're not just winding stuff down, they're cementing their control. Biden's already signed Executive Order 14067, and banks are actively testing a government-controlled digital dollar right now. You've heard me talk about this on the show. This isn't about modernizing currency. It's about total control. They want to track every dollar you earn, save, and spend, every single one. And here's the kicker. Once this system is fully implemented, it'll be nearly impossible for Trump to undo it. The radical left and their global elite allies will have a permanent grip on your financial life long after they're out of power. Trump's called this a dangerous threat to freedom, and J.D. Vance warns it could mean total government control over your finances. Folks, this is real and it's happening right now, but you're not powerless. That's why my friends at Priority Gold have created a free wealth preservation guide to help you fight back. It lays out 3 critical steps to shield your savings from this overreach. Text FREEDOM to 24999 right now to get your guide. That's freedom to 24999 or visit prioritygold.com. Don't wait. Text freedom to 24999 today and shield what's yours.
We'll see.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I had a very strange interaction with Tom Homan, who I've interviewed in the past, and he's an amazing guy. And I love that they're letting him out there off the leash to send a signal that the border's closed, stop coming now. I think it's great that he's doing all these the media push and that he's being so well received. I think he really grew into his last role in the Trump administration, and he's one to watch for sure. Mm-hmm. But it was interesting because I was going to be on television. It was a Fox thing, and he was on either right before or right after I was. And for whatever reason, I could hear the banter between him and the producers where he was getting set up for his shot. I mean, we're in the same room, and he had no idea I was listening, and I hope he doesn't mind that I would share this, but I frankly don't care because newsworthy. He was talking openly about how his family really is under attack and he really is moving his wife and the death threats are not good. And he didn't sound fearful per se. He did sound concerned, and he certainly sounded like he was being put through the ringer, but still steadfast, still strong, but he's a human being. And he's also the face of what's going to be a very tough policy. And he's going to be hated by a lot of people, but he is doing the right thing in his eyes for this country and for who he is as a person, his concept of right and wrong. And I find that to be, he's got real bravery and charisma. He doesn't have a screw loose that makes him a cold, heartless bastard. That's not him.
Yes. No.
This is an intellectual conclusion that he's drawn about this country, that we need a secure border or else we're not going to have a good country. And he's willing to put his life on the line, literally, to bring that to us. And I just think that's just so badass and inspiring. Yeah.
I read an analysis the other day that there's a difference between bravery and courage. And bravery is you do something heroic or something, right? Great. That's great. Bravery is good. But courage implies a foreknowledge of the difficulties that are still to come. And courage implies also that you are scared, but you do it anyway.
Yeah.
And the Latin word for courage, the Latin root word in it is heart. And bravery, like I forget the Latin root, but it's something more like head, something more like that implication. But courage is heart. And Tom has that. And if I'm setting myself up for discouragement, because if these guys who I am putting up on a bit of a pedestal, admittedly, if they don't do it, if they can't do it, that will be discouraging.
Yeah, I feel this way a lot. There's a few things where we're placing really big bets. The DOGE initiative is another one where if Musk can't figure this out, then I don't think anyone can. So the bottom line is that means if he doesn't figure it out, then he's literally the perfect person on earth to slash government.
Like literally once in a lifetime mind.
Yeah. Once in a lifetime mind. You can make the case that whatever policies could benefit his businesses, but so what? Like if he fails, he's down to worth 200 billion instead of 400. It's funny money anyway. And he's very good at creating ruthlessly efficient environments. I mean, that's the reputation for his companies. X is the best example where he cut 80% of the staff and the thing still functions. I mean, it's a minor miracle that he did that. So he's got to do it. And so if he doesn't do it, then it's going to be such a bummer. It really is. And people can clip this audio on Media Matters and they can all share it gleefully if it doesn't work out, because it will be.
But I pray it does. I mean, this is the chance. I really think this is a massive revolutionary moment for our country politically. And then we have the other aspects of our country that we need to save as well. But politically, like, this is the perfect storm and this is it, which is why I'm choosing to be excited. But now we're getting to game time here with a couple weeks left.
Yeah, and there was a discouraging thing, I think, with the budget embarrassment, that we were not prepared for this. Whatever you think of the outcome, it was not strong. Trump asked for one thing. You might have argued it's unreasonable. I would certainly entertain that argument, but he does want to have to debate the debt ceiling past 2027. He didn't get that. Johnson, MAGA Mike, he was out there hanging out with Trump and Musk and Robert Kennedy at the UFC fights, and he can't really deliver. I'm not saying it's an easy job. It's a terrible job. I say this every time. I'm a broken record on this. Speaker of the House sounds like the worst job in the country, but he took it. It's his job. So are you satisfied with where we're at on this, Mike? Or are you starting to get a little wobbly like I am?
Yeah. No, I think I gave more grace to Mike Johnson than Boyle did.
Well, everyone did.
Yeah. So, and like, I think I even like defended him to Boyle, which is like, oh, that's not going to work. Yeah, he's probably got to go. I am enthused and I know you would be too, just because of the newness of having Vivek be Speaker of the House, because that's never happened before. Or Elon be Speaker of the House. We've never had a not member of Congress be Speaker of the House, which is super cool. And then someone brought up Elon being Speaker of the House with Rand Paul and Mike Lee. But then some people are like, oh, well, he's not an American citizen, so he can't be Speaker of the House because he'd be third in line. And it's like, no, there's actually no constitutional mention of nationality of Speaker of the House. It's only president and vice president. So it's like, well, what would happen if he were like, it's just like crazy cool. Like talk about like awesome, neat news headlines if that ever be. So I'm kind of rooting for that. But yeah, I'm ready to let go of Mike Johnson. I'm okay with that. Now you mentioned that branch of government. I don't want to let go of the executive branch yet either. One last thing that I think is very interesting that we'll keep an eye on is impoundment. We did an hour on impoundment the other day, Alex, and I prefaced it and said multiple times, this will be the most boring hour you've ever heard. Like, it will just be brutal. But we had on Ed Martin, who's the new chief of staff of the Office of Management and Budget. And so we got Ed, we got, what's his name? Russ Vogt, Vought. He was on Tucker a couple weeks ago. And then a friend of the show is Mark Paoletta. He's like the chief mastermind lawyer. So you got the head of OMB, Office of Management and Budget. You got the legal mastermind, Mark Paoletta. And then you got the chief of staff, Ed Martin. These three guys and many others around him, but these three guys right here are going to use this weapon of impoundment. Very, very simply short put, because we can't spend another hour on it. The Congress appropriates money and the executive branch says, well, we don't need to spend all that. Congress can appropriate $100 million and the executive can say, we only need $20 million. You don't have to spend all the money. You can only spend some of it if you only need it. And there's historical precedent for this that we went all over for an hour, but I would want to throw that word out there to people's brains, impoundment, because when they use it, hopefully day one, you're going to hear a ton of people freaking out about how it's unconstitutional, and it's wrong, and it's immoral, and it's a violation of the norms and all this stuff. And it's none of those things. It is going to be a weapon used skillfully and well, hopefully, impoundment.
Yeah, Russ Vogt's a guy who I've got my eye on in a big way, because I think he could really be the key swamp draining figure. So, and just as a mountain of knowledge. And I also love that he was one of the architects of the, whatever it was, not the 1798. Like, what was the thing that we were supposed to talk about?
The counter to 1619?
No, what was the heritage thing that everyone wanted to talk about all the time?
Oh,
I think I've intentionally
Project 2025?
Yeah, Project 2025. Like, and then Trump just like puts him right in. He's like, "Here you go, you guys lost. Yeah, suck on this." Yeah, it's just so in your face by Trump, which is just doubly cool. And he's a real serious guy, so that's very cool. I got my eye on that. Mike, one thing that is connective tissue in your shows is your faith and how that grounds a lot of your political worldview, and how it's just ignorant to act like you can be a person who has a coherent politics and not have faith play a role in it. I think we're actually culturally, it feels like there's more openness to faith right now. You're seeing some of the most prominent atheists question some of the norms that they'd held for a long time. I think that this has come up quite a bit on the show of a more Christian sexual ethic. I think there's just so many examples day in and day out of people who have rejected that and how it's causing massive problems for them as they get older in life, and how just a more traditional sexual ethic it benefits people. And it's something that we just don't really talk about, but it just is a constant every day in our culture. There's someone who's gotten themselves into trouble by not trying their best to live that way. It feels like there's some opportunity here, but it's very hard to be pushy in this regard and convincing. And, you're trying to persuade people. How do we bring people to a more Judeo-Christian sensibility in our audiences?
Oh, that's great. Wow. So that is one of my main missions. You brought up the sexual ethic, so we can speak about that, or we just broaden it out in general. I think my first line of arguments is, how's it going?
It's so good.
That's
a great place to start.
How are we doing? How are we doing, everyone? Okay, I'll give you an example. Old friend of mine in San Diego just texted me this yesterday. He has a cookie decorating contest with friends and family come over. His wife's sister brought over a 48-year-old man who has an 18-year-old kid with another woman who's not his. And they're like dating, and she thought it was it was like appropriate to bring over this like man with like 3 kids from 3 different girlfriends over to the family to meet and it's like, what dysfunction is going on here? This is so bad for all the kids, everyone, no one cares. It's crazy, the dysfunction that's out there. So just look around. How are we doing? It's awful. I make the claim that every single societal problem we have in America, we trace back to breakdown of the family. And I know that almost sounds trite in conservative circles today, but like, try me. Like, name a thing.
Yeah, but again, what are we doing about it? We're not really adjusting. We talk about this, and then we don't really make any changes. I mean, there are people in my life who I talk to on a regular basis who I say things like this. They agree. And they don't live that way. They live a different way. They live an alternative way.
It's hard to talk about. So like when I just brought up divorce, right? That's hard to talk about because, or any of these social problems hard to talk about because there's 2 different groups of people that are listening. Either there's people who are full of regret for the life that they lived. So they're mad at you for they don't want to hear anything about it. Or people who are full of shame because they're living it right now. So it's like, all right, well, you just knocked out like 80% of the audience is like
at least,
now mad
or maybe more.
Totally. So it's like, okay, what do we do? So I try to emphasize, great, put all this behind you. Let's be honest with ourselves. Let's just do better for the next generation. I mean, that's kind of like the start, right? So, and I think that kind of like lowers the temperature a little bit. Like, you're attacking me. It's like, okay, listen, I think a lot of people are victims of the culture that we've been living in. Whether you knowingly made these bad decisions or not, et cetera, fine. Let's just move on past that and let's just do better for our kids. So don't let them continue on with these horrible ideas. One of the themes on the show is that there are three cultural expressions that people use all the time without even knowing it that are just wrong. Who are you to say? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and my truth. So the ancient wisdom is you look for the good, the beautiful, and the true. So we have the exact opposite of all these. So instead of the true, we have my truth. Instead of objective beauty, we have beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And instead of objective good, we have who are you to say? So I just want people to be aware first of the cultural malaise and like this soup that we've been swimming in. I think that's the first step is like awareness. Like, oh, like maybe kids don't have to be having sex in high school with like whoever you want all the time. Like maybe we don't do that. Because we've like, that's not good. And we've never done that before. Like this is a new thing. This sexual revolution stuff is new and we don't need to be doing this anymore. I think that first awareness is the first step. And then it's like, well, what do we do better? It's like, well, here's all the other ideas.
January 20th is the day and Washington, D.C. is the place. That's when and where Donald Trump will be inaugurated as the 47th president of the United States. He gets a whole new inauguration. It was already 45th. Now it'll be 47. And we want to send you there. You can win a once-in-a-lifetime VIP experience to attend the inauguration in Washington, D.C. It includes airfare for you and a guest to Washington, a 3-night stay in our nation's capital, tickets for the presidential inauguration, and much more. Don't miss this historic opportunity to celebrate the greatness, the history, the excitement of a presidential inauguration. To enter, you see the link in the show notes for this episode or go to SalemPodcastNetwork.com/Trump. Guys, I've said that this is the marquee event on anyone's social calendar for the year, really for the decade for most people. And you get a chance to go. I don't see why you wouldn't give it a shot. Salem Podcast Network/Trump. All you got to do, and you'll get your name on the list. And let's see if you can win. I hope you do. Yeah, and it's something that I feel like I don't want to speak from a place of moral superiority. That's not the goal here. But if you're living in a way, yeah, it is. But if you're living in a way that you feel like is sinful and is not satisfying to you on a spiritual level, then you can change today. And a lot of, at least my faith, Catholic faith, we're very forgiving, and we want people to be reborn, and we want people to be able to have another chance. And it would be helpful if you can buy into that too, because then we can start teaching. Mike and I have young kids, and we want to raise them so that they don't have to be reborn. They can just just get it right the first time. But that's okay if you don't get it right the first time. But we do need to start, I think, addressing some of this. That a lot of our problems are stemming from what you identified. I love your point about beauty being the eye of the beholder. As someone who, studied music, for example, and I'm not anti-pop music. I think there's some good stuff happening in pop music, and I think there's some innovations with some of the electronic music, which is actually quite creative and kind of incredible. But it really did kind of peak at the romantic period of music, was kind of the best music ever got. And you can make the case classical period, the Baroque period were just as good. And we're not doing that stuff now. Art obviously peaked with you walk around the Sistine Chapel and we're not doing anything. No one's doing the Raphael room. No one's doing the David. It's a Michelangelo's David, which is you feel like weeping the first time you see it. And how come no one's doing that? We don't have one person on the planet who's doing it. It's clearly better than whatever art is being put out today. So we don't even discuss it. It doesn't come up that it's why isn't one person sculpting? Do we have a sculptor? Is there a sculptor? Can you name a sculptor? Why not? I'm not saying that we can't innovate and move ahead, and maybe it already peaked, but long ago. But there is a objective nature to that beauty that is not really up for debate. I don't really want to hear your argument of why anything that we're doing today is comparable to that, because it's just not.
No, man, you're singing my song. We could do an hour on this, and I want to. I don't want to even stop right now. Let me just jump to the end. That's why I was so encouraged that Trump went to Notre Dame the other day, and just Notre Dame itself, right? Like just the fact that we actually rebuilt Notre Dame exactly what it was before. I was like really encouraged by that, because there was a real question. Literally, do we have the stone craftsmen alive who can do the gargoyles and redo all the stonework and everything? Like, or is that a lost art? So the quick story on the wood rafters. So the wood rafters of Notre Dame. So this was built in like 1100, and the tree's 300 years old. So 800 years, the trees were grown, they're 800, and they were all burned up. That's why it lit up. So like it did. So they're like, hey, we want to do wood rafters again. And they're like, well, we can't, no one knows how to do that. There was actually a group called Carpenters Without Borders that was founded in 1992. And they were just these like dweeby guys who were like, you know what? We like old school carpentry techniques. And they had no idea that 20 years later, they'd be asked to rebuild the Notre Dame Cathedral by hand. Nothing was sawed with machine, all done by axe by hand, and redo the entire timbers. They searched 80 different woods in France to try to find the perfect type of tree with just the right amount of sap. They had to be 80 feet tall, and they did everything by hand to make it exactly like it was before. And I'm encouraged by that, because we don't need to reinvent the wheel at all. That would be so difficult if it was like, man, we don't even know what the right answer is. It's like, no. Like, we know the truth. Like, we have the blueprints. We know what the rafters look like. We know what a properly ordered life looks like. We just have to have the courage and wisdom to do it. But anyway, I'm so encouraged by your art. We did a segment a couple weeks ago on music, and how music is just math. And just, again, back to the objectiveness of things that sound good. We were at Handel's Messiah just the other day. Brought the kids to their first symphony performance to listen to Handel's Messiah. And you're like, oh, like that's obviously amazing. And like, why?
Right. Exactly. You don't really need to, I think even you gotta be pretty cynical to not.
Totally. And we feed our kids crap and garbage all the time. So I think part of making America healthy again is just what we put into our souls, not just our bodies with chemicals.
Yeah. And just balance it out. I mean, I like a hyper-violent movie, and I like horror movies, and I like things that are actually sort of expression of free speech and challenging societal norms. I think that's a healthy part of society, but it can't be the whole thing. I mean, is that all day we're just trolling online? That's the whole thing, is we're just being irreverent every second. We can't. Yeah. I think there's a place for that. And then you pull back into the classics. You pull back into what's truly beautiful and meaningful and a product of decades of work and effort, and not stuff that was just, memed in a half an hour online by someone who's bored. It can't be all that we're consuming, is it?
Let me go back to It's a Wonderful Life, reference number maybe 4 of the show. My wife and I were watching, we're like, wow, look at her dress. What a beautiful dress she's wearing. And all the guys are dressed nicely, and there's just beauty. The whole, it's the town is beautiful and well decorated. And the house she's making the house beautiful, right? It was, the old torn down house, and everything's made beautiful, and they had high standards. And, we've lost them. But that's all part of this progressive Marxist revolution that we've been living through the last 50 years. And I'm ready to reject that. That's why I think MAGA is bigger than just political. Politics is one weapon. It's one tool that we've been wielding, and we won. And now we got to keep winning that. But man, it's just the beginning. I really believe we need I think we're on number 3 technically, but the third revival in America. And that encompasses all these other things about making America great again too, more than just winning the House. Because see how that will disappoint you.
You know what's really interesting is that the boomers are so often a letdown. No offense to all my wonderful boomers in the audience, but I actually think that they at least lived in a time where we valued this stuff on a broader level. And I'm wondering if with Trump, who might be the last boomer president, I'm wondering if he gets this stuff. I mean, and he's a fun guy, but he understands the classics and he understands what real greatness is, real beauty is. And he's got a lot of objective beauty standards. I wouldn't be shocked if he was he was helpful in this regard in trying to get the word out about this stuff.
Yeah. So there's by the way, I'm going to do the same thing you did to me. Are those my kids or your kids in the background?
I'm about to ask you what your take is on corporal punishment, because I am just... I had such a great conversation. And
well, let me finish this. Let me finish this one thought.
It's one of the more trusted kids is the one who's making all the noise, which makes it hurt even more.
Who can you count on these days? You can't count on Mike Johnson. You can't count on your oldest. What are we even doing? I'll ask everyone. So my favorite thing Trump did, I'm slightly exaggerating, in his last go around was the Make Federal Buildings Beautiful Again executive order.
Love that.
So I look forward to that being a thing. I encourage everyone to listen to the first maybe half an hour of the Ivanka Trump podcast with Lex Friedman, where they just talked about beautiful architecture for a while and Trump's role in that, but even beyond Trump. And I'd encourage everyone to search for the tennis pavilion, Trump Tennis Pavilion, White House. And Ivanka was in charge of restoring that. And it's stunningly beautiful, objectively stunningly beautiful. And we need way more of that everywhere. I'm so sick of the uglified, everything's made ugly. Like nature is objectively beautiful naturally. And all we do is we uglify things. And we just need to send a different message to our kids that humans don't make things ugly. We make things beautiful.
Well, okay, so let's put a pin in this because I do want to have a longer conversation on this because this is something that's worth doing a full show on, because it's very clear that we make things uglier, and the left does in particular. If you look at our cities, the tolerance of ugliness, I was joking, we were driving back from a family trip up the coast yesterday, and we pulled through downtown LA, and I announced that there was a bagel place I wanted to go to, and my wife thought it was a great idea, and I said, you know why I'm thinking that? Because all of this filth and graffiti and broken down buildings reminds me of this really great bagel place in Silver Lake that we go to. That I refer to, this is not its real name, I refer to it as Challenge Bagel, because it's a challenge to go stand outside at this stupid bagel shop. Yeah. And this filthy street, and you're just so depressing, and you're just standing on the side of the road to get this bagel because that's part of the LA experience. And I was just thinking about it, and I was thinking about how it really does hurt your soul that we tolerate this hideousness in an iconic American city that is so it is essential to America's our appearance to the world is so much to do with Los Angeles, California. I mean, in Washington, D.C. and other places, in Nashville increasingly. But it's an iconic American city, and it's a disgrace. The center of town is a disgrace. There are parts that are great. My neighborhood's very good. Beverly Hills is amazing. There's places that are great. But the center of town is an embarrassment. And we are completely fine with it. And the people who run this city are cool with that. Yeah. And they're fine with us being bummed out and mopey because we're easier to control. And that's the environment they've created. Yes. In a society where God is part of our life, beautiful music is a part of our life, beautiful scenery is a part of our life, beautiful relationships are part of our life, that elevates the human spirit. And when we're exposed to that, then we think anything's possible. They don't want us to feel that way. They want us to be manipulated and manipulatable. And that's why they hate nice architecture and they hate nice music, and they want us to be able to have our DoorDash for our lukewarm $70 hamburgers and to shut the F up. That's what they want. And we can't give in to that. And we can't raise kids that are okay with that, Mike.
Oh, I'm so glad you did the that. So my analysis tends to stop at, we should have objectively beautiful buildings because they're beautiful. But you went the next step. That's it. It's so you could be easily or controlled and manipulated, which is why the Soviets built the way they built, because you are nothing. You mean nothing. You are meaningless. Yes. You are a cog in our machine. Emma Jo changed my heart on this.
Emma Jo Morse, who's been a guest on the show. Go back and find the podcast if you want to go get it.
Oh, Emma Jo's one of my all-time favorite people. Is that?
Oh, fair.
Yeah. She's amazing. Because I'm more of a country vibe.
She will listen to this, by the way. So this will be an extra.
Is she?
She's the original Alex Marlow Show stan. So
nice.
She will. Yeah. So that's
okay. Good. Well, she should know, and I hope she does.
It'll be a Hanukkah miracle for her when she gets this.
I'm more country I'm country mouse versus city mouse, like that old Aesop's fable from 3,000 years ago. So talk about this being an eternal truth. So I'm a country mouse, but I could be inclined to screw the cities. Who cares? Let them fall to pot. But she's a city gal. So I was like, oh, I don't want Emma Jo's town to go to pot. But she also said, no, these are our jewels. I like that line. She used that word jewel. Like New York's like the jewel of America. And I think we'll make a Christmas movie reference. Nick Cage, Family Man, the Family Man. And he's like, if I lived in ancient Roman days, I'd live in Rome, but I live in America, or we live in this year, so we live in New York because it's the center of the universe. If it's going to be the center of the dang-on universe, it better be the best center of the universe we can possibly make it. And we've given up on it, and we shouldn't accept that anymore.
Well said, Mike. We always have such a great time together. I'm on Mike's show every other week on Breitbart News Daily. So people can check that out. It usually comes out in the Breitbart News Daily podcast. Mike has got a couple of books. He's got Imagine Jack and the History Kids. It's a kid's book. Pick that up. How to Change Someone's Mind, which is I think a book for anyone. You guys should get that.
It's a pamphlet. It'll take you an hour to read.
Amazing. I love that. It's I'm working on book number 3 right now, and it will be my shortest book. That's a promise, and it will be the most readable. And I'm just embracing it as I get it. I don't need to prove anything to anyone intellectually. I would rather people actually read the book. That'd be it. It is okay. And Breitbart News Daily, of course, the mothership, our flagship radio show, Breitbart News, Sirius XM, 6 to 9 a.m. on the Patriot Channel, 125. And also on the Sirius XM app. Can't recommend it enough. Those times are Eastern, so I know that's early for you guys. That's why the on-demand is so big. Anything else to share?
No,
today,
other
Mike?
than love. This is an honor in my life to be host of Breitbart News Daily, that you trust me with the show. I just want to tell everyone what a wonderful father Alex is. It's very important to me, and it's important to you. And that means a lot to me as one of your employees, that is a top value at the company. That means a lot, and I want everyone to know that that's real.
Well, you're one of the hardest working guys in radio and one of the most uplifting to be around. So we appreciate you, Mike, at Breitbart very much. And we'll do this from time to time. And I do it, again, quite often on Mike's show. So thanks to you. Thanks to producer Misty. Merry Christmas, one and all. Any of you who are just catching up on the shows, aloha at alexmarlow.com. If you want to be a part of the broadcast, sharing 5-star reviews, you know what to do. Telling 10,000 friends and family members about Breitbart.com, the Breitbart Fight Club, whatever is your favorite version of the Breitbart universe, go get it and evangelize on our behalf. That's how we grow and that's how we thrive. Thanks for listening or watching. We'll talk to you next time.